NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy, Sim. And here we are in the shoot-around, ladies and gentlemen, with the famed series, Keep 'em or Dump 'em. And today, we're talking about Elfrid Payton and Frank Ntilikina. We figured we'd get this one out of the way. Get it out the way, then we can get on with everybody else. But before I do that, I'd like to say to my man Chris Bruton in the chat, he said, what time does a 2:30 live stream start? Well, I'm assuming that a 2:30 live stream start would begin around 2:30 or maybe a couple minutes after, but this is a 3:30 live stream. So it starts about 3:30 or a couple minutes after. So what happens when you deal with live stuff, Chris? Anyway, let me get to my guys here in the chat, man. We got Nate the Great in the building. Andy's in the building. We got Cornerstone Kev. And we might as well get this thing popping, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get it popping. Let me just say what's up with Cornerstone. And
Hey, what's
Andy
up?
and Nate. And then we'll get popping. Go ahead, Cornerstone.
Hey, what's going on, Sam? Salute to my brothers in the chat. Salute to the panel, Mr. Andy and Mr. Nate, my two arch enemies and everything. So ready to get this thing going, all right? All right.
All right. Andy?
What up? What up to you, Sim? What up to the chat? What up to the panel? Like probably before yesterday, when I saw the notification, I was thinking it was yesterday's show. I was running around the house, like a chicken without a head, popping in, and seems like I got a meeting. I'm gonna be in 10, and he joins in, and he's like, "The show's tomorrow." So I was rushing so bad to talk about these two guys that I was like 24 hours before the show started. So let's get it going.
And Nate, what's going on with you, man?
What up, y'all, man? Sounds like y'all been hanging out with Isaiah too much.
Hey, I wish I was hanging with Isaiah. Isaiah's over in somewhere on vacation.
Oh, he's in vacation again? Man, that boy did a lot of vacation. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I need to take a vacation, man. God.
So what's going on with you, Nate?
Doing pretty good, man. I just woke up from a nap, man. So yeah, just ready to have this debate, man. Let's
All right, let's get it, man. Let's talk about Elfrid Payton. We're gonna get with him first because we know the Frank Ntilikina conversation. We already know what it's gonna be about. So let's talk about Elfrid Payton. Because I saw something in a chat, maybe in the NBK panel chat on Twitter, that was very interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people disagree with what I saw in the chat. But we'll start with Elfrid Payton. Elfrid Payton, ladies and gentlemen, this season, he averaged 10.1 points per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, and 3.2 assists per game. Now, a lot of people will say, so what? And they're probably right. But you know what? I was a big defender of Elfrid Payton all season long, not really because of his production, but mainly because, people killed him at every step of the way as if he was the only reason the Knicks won or lost. And that just wasn't the case. And for a while, he was putting together a decent season until the end. The end of the season was rough for Elfrid Payton, right? He wasn't scoring the basketball. He was basically just out there as a placeholder for Derrick Rose. But still, it bodes the conversation. As a team, do you keep him or do you dump him? Is he back next year? There was a moment in time where I thought Elfrid Payton could be back because Tom Thibodeau was a fan of his, during the end of the season, I changed course. So let's see what we got here, man. Tony Crow just joined us. I'm going to start with Kev. See what Kev thinks. Kev, let's get with it, my brother. Talk to me, man. Talk to me, man.
Well, this will surprise you.
Uh-oh.
I was actually an Elfrid fan.
Lying.
I was. It's a shame that I wasn't on, the beginning of last year. I was a fan. I liked his game, what he did for the Magic. And when he left, I was thrilled because then we didn't have to really deal with him, anymore. Pretty much just twice a year. He goes to Phoenix, then goes to the
Pelicans.
The Pelicans, and then he comes to us, and I was like, "Oh, this is if my boy's about to be replaced, this would be the best thing." The only problem was,
government fund education grant.
Who's that? Oh, okay. The only problem was it seemed like his game just didn't materialize to what I saw in Orlando. And then this year, it just seemed as like he just took a, in my opinion, I think he took a nosedive the other way. And right now, I'm like, I thought he should have been replaced with somebody else, but it is what it is. So I wouldn't want him back because I think we could do a lot better at the point guard position than what he's displayed. And that's just the way I feel, man. That's just the way I feel.
Well, we could definitely do a lot better at the point guard position. That's without a doubt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just
that's without a doubt.
Yeah.
That's without a doubt. You're looking for a starting point guard. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
You're looking for a point guard when you get to free agency this year. You're looking for a guy that's going to be your leader, be your captain, be your general, lead your troops into battle. That's what you're looking for.
Right.
Andy, what's your thoughts, man?
I'm going to answer the question just off the bat. The only way Elfrid Payton is on the Knicks next season, if I was the GM, is if he comes to me and says like, listen, just sign me. I'm going to take the minimum. I just want to be in the league. I'm going to wait till my chance comes up. If it has to be 2-3 guys injured, I'm going to play those spot minutes, whatever you want from me. Any other way, bro, he is not getting a chance on the Knicks. Then again, let's remember, playing in Fizdale's system and in Thibs' system, the point guards basically didn't have a huge of a role. Both systems were ran through Julius Randle, and Julius probably thanks Elfrid Payton every day for it, that he was the ball handler, the big playmaker guy, and offense orchestrator basically. Because otherwise, if we would have a real starting NBA point guard, he wouldn't get probably the stats, at least the assists that he got this season. Maybe even the trophies that he got, NBA second team, selection, and the most improved player. The offense, so heavily featured Julius because we had weak point guards. Next season, I am trying to imagine that we will upgrade at the point guard. So the only way that Elfrid is going to stay is on maybe the third string. If not, it's going to be the fourth string point guard on this squad.
Now see, my thing there about him being even a fourth string point guard on the team, to me,
it would be a younger guy, right?
Yeah, you might as well just have a young guy there instead of having Elfrid Payton. Or even if it's going to be a third string, you might as well have a young guy instead of having Elfrid Payton. I wouldn't see why you would have Elfrid Payton at that point But what you brought up is an interesting take. Would Julius Randle, if we get a starting level point guard that's going to handle the basketball, and I don't care if Julius Randle has the same type of numbers or not, as long as he is productive for this team and he shoots efficiently and he does those type of things. If he is the ball handler who is facilitating, it doesn't matter to me. But I think you bring up a good point. If we bring in a different type of a point guard, does Julius Randle's production dip?
And Sim,
that's a really good question.
And this is going to be both ways. If they ran the offense and keep it this way that it was ran this season, Julius taking the ball, even, up the court and stuff, any point guard that we sign is going to have his, lower stats than the previous season. I don't think there was an NBA team that ran the offense like we ran through Julius.
Right.
Had to.
Right. I mean that definitely makes sense. Now, like Nate says, maybe we had to, because Tom Thibodeau wasn't comfortable with Elfrid Payton being the creator. So maybe Tom Thibodeau was like, hey, this is the best way to do it, because Julius Randle is going to force a double team, which is going to allow us to kick the ball out and so on.
And so just let me say like one more thing about Elfrid. Let's remember that Elfrid Payton, the last stint he had with the Pelicans, if I'm correct, he had 7 triple doubles down there.
Yeah.
So it's not like he, the monsters came and took his, skills, right? It's like, it's probably the system. I don't think you can nag a guy like that he's going to be averaging, 4.5 points, 2.7 assists and whatever, right? He was averaging, imagine even if the season had 66 games, he had 7 triple doubles. That's 10% of the games. So that's a huge thing. So, but then again, that system might be, a little bit more stat padding for the point guard. And this was definitely a turnaround. So,
I mean, listen, Elfrid Payton averaged 7 assists last season with the Knicks. 10 points and 7 assists. Yeah. About the same amount of rebounds. This year, the assist total, to me, it really had to do with the design of the system, like you're saying. Yeah. Julius Randle had the ball in his hands, and he was the orchestrator. And it worked, so we can't complain. It worked.
Yeah, exactly.
It worked. Tony, what's your take, man? What do you think? Elfrid Payton, keep him or dump him?
What's up, Stone?
Oh, shout out to the chat. Shout out to the panel. Son, what's good?
What's good with you, my man?
Dump him, man. I think he's ran his course. He's ran his course on the team. The ending. Not only the ending in the playoffs where he lost his role in the rotation, but just the ending of the season with his mannerisms and body language. It seemed like maybe he knew losing his starting spot would be losing his rotation spot completely, because something was different with him in those last maybe 15 games or so. Going into the playoffs, and I think he's ran his course. We're due for upgrade, and the fact that he wasn't part of the second unit when losing the starting spot, I don't know if he has a role other than the starting spot, at least here. So
yeah, and I agree. I think that kind of tells you everything that you need to know, right, about Elfrid Payton. And like you're saying, I do think the relationship just got sour. If you went onto Twitter, his mom was, she was like that all season long. Anytime Payton was not in the game and somebody else was in the game, she'd say, oh, see what happens when he's not in the game, or you want to start this point guard or that point guard. Look what happened, this, that, and the third. She was like that all season long. And I guess by the time playoffs came, a lot of fans caught on to it. She was arguing with fans. The situation just really soured.
Mm-hmm.
Just really got sour by the end of the season, and it's probably just not healthy at all.
Nope. For
him to come back, whether or not a person like this player or not. When a situation gets that sour, it's just not healthy. Nate, what's your take?
Man, this guy could have been most improved player along like Julius Randle, and I still would have said dump him. I've been very consistent with this message even when we signed him. I did not understand the move. I was actually a fan of just giving Frank the keys, and if you got to get a point guard later, so be it. But let Frank do his thing this season, and then figure it out. And when Payton came in, I just did not understand the move. I get he played well with the Pelicans, but let's be real. Who was the competition behind Payton in that team? I mean, he really was not looking over the shoulder with anybody in New Orleans. I think that's why he was able to excel. And when the Knicks brought in Derrick Rose, that's when Elfrid Payton just went out. He just checked out. He went completely done. And I was thinking, you could be the most tough-minded person in the world, but when you read negativity all the time on social media, you read negativity on the news, you read negativity on everything, and then you see all the accolades that people are giving Derrick Rose, and the fact that Tom Thibodeau will never say it, but he favors Derrick Rose over Elfrid Payton, it's not a good situation, and it's going to affect you. And it sure as hell affected him, because the one thing that I saw more so than anything in his game was the defense. I mean, there were times where he did play good defense, but it wasn't consistent. And definitely when it got to the end, especially around the playoffs or around the end of the season, his defense was nowhere to be found. And that was his calling card. And when that's your calling card and you suck at that, or you're starting to suck at that, I mean, it's time for you to go, bro. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I wish him the best of luck. He should have never came to this team. I don't know why we signed him. But it's time for him to go.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why we signed him. I'm gonna tell you why we signed him. And I was actually in support of them re-signing him. The reason why they signed him is because they didn't want to pay
or commit
2 years, $15 million to Rajon Rondo, right? Or any other of these point guards that wanted a 2 or 3 year deal that they were not comfortable in saying, I'm giving you the keys to our team. So they said, you know what? We'll go with Elfrid Payton. We plan on bringing in Derrick Rose. We'll pay this man $4.8 million, $5 million for the season, and then we'll see what goes from there. Right? So this way they don't wrap up their cap space for the next 2 or 3 years on a point guard that's, that they don't really see as being part of the future. Right. So even if they didn't really see him as being part of the future, they say, you know what? He's been here with the team. This will be his 3rd season with the team, or whatever it was. Second season, whatever, however many seasons.
Second season.
Right. Second season with the team. We'll give him a little bit of money. Tom Thibodeau can use him how he wishes. And then we're going to move on and get a starting point guard next season. Now, it's soured with Elfrid Payton.
You ain't lying.
So most likely he's not going to be back. But don't be surprised if you see another point guard get $5 million to play for this team if the Knicks are not able to bring in Alonzo Ball or Chris Paul or somebody like that. In my opinion, that would be the right move, though. Right? If, I know that the point guard position is the number one priority for this team. But if you can't get a player that's going to move the needle at that position, then you might as well bring in someone that's going to be a strong stopgap until you can get that player, instead of wasting $20 million on a guy that you really don't believe in, right? So, that's what I think. It'll happen again. It's not going to be Elfrid Payton because that relationship is just sour. But it could happen again if they don't strike gold on one of these guys.
That's kind of my thought too, because I was thinking about it with Tibbs. I mean, if you had a younger coach, I think the younger coach might push more for a younger point guard. But Tibbs, being who he is, very stubborn, very, big-headed at times, he's going to want a vet point guard. He's not going to take a rookie point guard and going to let him run the show. He's not going to let Luka run the show. He's gonna want a vet point guard. So I agree. I think you're absolutely right. My question is, who are you going to go get? I mean, I don't know the free agency list of possibilities, but I mean, I don't know who's out there.
But see, here's the thing, real quick. Since you brought up Luka, this is a guy who hasn't played with college people. He's played with men, and he's playing with grown men. So
you know what though, Kev, and I hate to cut you off on that, but I think we've learned throughout the years now that it doesn't always mean anything. Yes, he's played with grown men, we get it, but it doesn't always mean anything. But
he's played on the same. He's from the Argentinian team.
We get
now.
it.
You can't tell me now. Tell me of an Argentinian that's had a bad career being in the NBA.
Andrea Nicioni.
Think it could be Campazzo.
Yeah, he could be the next Campazzo. Who'd you say, Andy? I'm sorry.
Nicioni. He was a small forward that didn't.
Nocioni?
Yeah.
Nocioni?
I still kind of agree with Kev in the sense that I believe that if all else fails, he'll be the starting point guard. Will retain Rose as the backup role,
right?
And use some of that money.
And you didn't have to. You didn't have to go get this
position of need. He's not an NBA veteran, but he's definitely a veteran.
Yeah, he's young.
And then I kind of trust the scouting team that we that we come to have over the last year. This is one of those not foreseen moves that we made. So I don't think it was made in vain. So I think he's gonna have a role on this team, whether it's replacing Rose or Payton. I think he's gonna be in one of those two positions.
Yeah, I mean, see, I'm just not ready to say anything about him until I see him play. Right, because.
Well, we said the same thing about Prigioni too, and look what happened. Prigioni was like a huge, he was. We caught him. Let's be real. He was at the tail end of his career,
right?
And he helped us out.
I get it, but I'm just saying. Like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Right? A lot of people think they can play in the NBA until they get to the NBA. So I just want to see the brother play and then say, I think he might do this, that, and the third. I just don't know. I've never seen him play. I've seen clips. Right? And he looks good.
And he was like the most valuable player in one of those tournaments, too.
Yeah, but check this out. We drafted a point guard a couple years ago, white kid. From overseas.
I remember him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And if
you watch his clips, you're like, damn, this kid is nice.
Weird jersey.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
He's never stepped foot in the NBA.
He sure did not. And I don't understand.
Never.
I don't understand that one. I don't understand. You're totally right.
The Phil Jackson draft pick?
Yeah.
I forgot the guy's name.
Like that. Artemis.
Yeah, I don't get that. I didn't get that one at all, Sim. You're totally right. I don't know what happened with that one.
He's what is not ready to come to the NBA, I gather. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you've had players that come over. You've had players that come over to the NBA say, I'm going back home.
But I think in this situation, I think it's totally different. I think it is. We'll get to see that in the Olympics, and we'll get to see it in
Summer League.
In the Summer League too.
Hopefully he plays in Summer League. We'll get to see.
I also think with this move, like, you don't make this move for this guy because knowing that you have draft picks this year 2 draft picks. So you have an opportunity to go get a young point guard if you want to in this draft. If they don't really think that this guy could actually come in and take the starting position. And he's only 25 years old. Now, I get what you're saying, Sim. You know, I'm a very critical person of the European players. Like, I've always been, you know, Luka is a once-in-a-lifetime type of player that's just come in and just balled out so early on, you know. But I just think, just from a standpoint that they made this move because they see something in this dude. And on top of that, you know, yeah, he's played in a very strong team. Not like that other dude. That other dude didn't play. I don't know who he played for. I know they had terrible jerseys. That's all I know. But he didn't play for, like, this guy played for legit teams. Like, these are one of your best European teams. So he's not playing scrubs. Like, they're playing the best competition in those leagues.
I get that. Listen, I'm not saying anything negative about the kid. I'm just not ready to say.
But you're not believing in him right now.
I'm not saying I'm not believing in him. I'm just saying I want to see what he does. I just want to see him play. So I can't say if I believe in him or don't believe him because I haven't seen him play. So I don't know.
And don't get it twisted. I was looking at him being more of a backup. I was looking at him being more of a backup than actually starting. But if worse comes to worse and he shells out, I wouldn't mind giving him the keys. Especially if he's going to make Randall look better and RJ look better, and, you know, whoever, because that's what his main thing is. He wants to pass. He wants to get everybody well.
He's like a playmaker. Yeah, we need a playmaker on this freaking team.
Yeah,
I've been saying that for the get-go.
Exactly.
Andy, you were gonna say something.
I wanted to revert on going back to Payton, because, you know, we already on keep and dumping Luka Vildoza here, so. Let's going back to Payton.
Right. He's not even on the agenda.
Well, he's the elephant in the room.
Nobody saw a minute, and even in the summer league, and he's, you know, more talked about than our starting point guard. So let's get back to Payton. You know, him getting on the squad on this Knicks roster. Let's remember, he was signed like one of the last guys, right? Mm-hmm. So probably, like Sim said, we didn't commit to another point guard. And he was one of probably the oldest, because we had Dennis Smith Jr., we had Frank, and we had Quickly. So, you know, you got to bring someone more experienced for a coach like Tibbs. That's why Tibbs started him. And I don't think that was even close, because Tibbs never liked, you know, young guards. And to run a system like even like a Tibbs one, I don't think, you know, he has that trust in non-experienced NBA players. That's why they got him. Let's call Payton, you know, a vet, so he can run with the team. Was the best choice? Probably not. But then again, we didn't commit money. We didn't, you know, strangle the salary cap for him. So it was basically a win-win situation for this year. And let's remember, he started most of the games in the regular season, and that got us to the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. None of us predicted that seeding. So, you know, we can knock him seed however we want him, but he was a part of that, you know, result. So,
yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100% there. And I heard what you said, Nate. Derrick Rose got us here. Derrick Rose didn't do it by himself. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do it by himself.
He catapulted us to the 4th seed. I mean, without him, we would have lost a lot of games.
Really? He did catapult
Payton
us.
Payton still was starting those games. You know, even those couple of minutes, he was still there. So
yeah, he was part of it. Listen, you can't deny that he was part of it. You may not like him. That's fine. That's up to you. But he was part of it. And guess what? In free agent negotiations, there are going to be teams that look and say, you know what, he was part of this. Maybe he can help our team in some kind of way. You know, when he looks going to another basketball team. So, you know, the bottom line is he's not going to be in New York. We know that. Let
me ask you this question.
He's not going to be in New York. That ship has sailed. The situation is bad. It's not going to be here. Go ahead.
Hindsight's 2020. Do you think that the front office made a mistake not getting a playoff Rondo and signing Payton? I know
No.
they didn't want to commit the money to him.
No.
But like,
I don't. Because Rondo, he's good. Does he help us get past the Hawks? Who knows? You don't
he
know.
Could have been a pest on Trae Young. I'll say that.
Right. You don't know. You don't know if he helps us get past the Hawks. So I can't sit and say either way. But now you committed $7.5 million to him for the next season, for 2021, 2022. The Knicks were 41-31. They got the 4th seed. They flamed out in the playoffs, right? But they did way more than anybody expected for them to do. Now you still got money. After doing all of those things, you got your money. That $7.5 million is not committed to Rajon Rondo.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? It's not committed to Rajon Rondo. You got money to go out and make maneuvers. And that was the entire idea, I think, this offseason. So no, I don't, I don't regret it. I'm not as mad as everybody else is about, the playoffs and the fact that we didn't pick up somebody at the trade deadline or whatever. Was I disappointed with the playoffs? Of course I was. But it doesn't make me say, well, we should have got this guy or that guy, because I still understand the process of where we're trying to go with this team. You know what I mean? I do want to go back to one thing that Kev was saying, though, about Luka. He was talking about how Luka, played with men, and he played with, some of the best teams in Europe and this and that. But so did Frank Ntilikina.
Nice segue.
So did Frank. And Frank hasn't been able to get his chance with the New York Knicks. All right, this season, Frank Ntilikina averaged 2.7 points per game, just under 1 rebound per game, about a half of assist, 0.6 assists per game, but he only played 9.8 minutes per game. He shot 36.7% from the field, and he shot 47.9% from the three-point line. Listen, he did an excellent job raising his three-point percentage. And people can, say, well, he didn't shoot that many shots. I really don't care, because in the previous season, he didn't shoot it. He didn't shoot that many shots either. Right? So this season, Frank Ntilikina shot 1.5 three-point attempts per game. In 1920, he shot 2.4. So, a little bit more. But he also played more. He played 21 minutes a game last season. He only played 9.8 minutes per game this season. But he shot it at such a higher clip, 47.9%, that you got to believe that if he shot 2.5 three-point attempts per game this year, he'd still be shooting about 40% from the field, in my opinion. So that was impressive for him to improve his three-point shot. He continued to work on it throughout the offseason. And I thought that this was going to be a big year for Frank. I thought that him and Tom Thibodeau was going to be a match made in heaven. I watched some of his workout videos, and I didn't just, look at him making shots. I took a look at his form while he was shooting those shots. Right? He had a quicker snap on the release. When he shot the ball, his arm didn't dangle out as much. He had it nice and boom. Right? So his form just looked a lot tighter than it did in the past. And I thought he'd have a much better season this year. He didn't get the minutes. So Frank Ntilikina, ladies and gentlemen, do we keep him or do we dump him? And let me get Frank Ntilikina's name up on the board. There we go. Frank Ntilikina. Do we keep him? Do we dump him? Andy, I'm starting with you.
You see Frank staying with me. So unless he's not signed, that poster ain't coming down. But to be serious, listen, I'm keeping Frank, but for a certain price. It's not going to be a high price, because I'm willing to pay Frank I think it's going to be the magic number for me is going to be $5 million per year. And it's going to be a short deal. It's not going to be like 4 years, $5 million per year, right? If he gets a chance for a 2-3 season contract for $5 million, I think that's tops as much as the Knicks are going to offer for him. Unless, any other team is going to pick him up, so he's going to get even less from the Knicks. But, for me, I still see potential in him. And listen, to be true, I don't think he would be doing that way worse of a job than Reggie Bullock did. Reggie Bullock only played defense and took 3-point shots. I think even Frank could score, off the dribble more than Reggie Bullock did through the whole season if he would get those minutes. But that's a thing we could debate, and it's never going to be supported by any facts because Frank didn't get playing time. And it comes also down to Thibs. I think, like we mentioned before, he's more of a win now coach. That's why he's not experimenting with the young guys. And Obi and quickly, in my theory, he got the orders from the management to use those guys in the rotation more. That's why, I think less minutes even for guys like Frank, Dennis Smith Jr. before the trade happened, and the rest of the guys. So it's like I said, I would keep Frank if it was only for me, but for a certain price. I'm not paying Frank $10 million per year. That he can forget about it. And bro, that poster would come down, even faster from the wall than you guys think. So, yeah, but listen, if Frank is with the French national team at this point. He's waiting for the rest of the NBA crew to come by, and I am looking at those exhibition game schedules. I'm going to keep you guys posted whenever it's going to happen, and maybe we can find a link to watch the game. I'm going to try to keep you guys posted on that front, so we can see if he gets minutes there, how is he playing with that team, if we're going to see something that Thibs could use, but he didn't even try, right?
Yeah. I'm always conflicted about whether or not to keep him or let him go. I'm not gonna lie, I'm conflicted because I do think that Frank Ntilikina still has potential, and I see people in the chat potential, saying all kinds of stuff.
Of course.
I think that Frank Ntilikina has potential.
Thank you.
I really do, and he has a calling card. He plays defense. And he's going to get faster and stronger coming into next season. And he's got a high work ethic, which means I believe he's going to get better. Now, why didn't he play? What is it that Tom Thibodeau didn't see from this kid? Was it the scoring? Was he too passive sometimes on offense? What is it that Tom Thibodeau did not see about Frank Ntilikina that kept him off the floor? Right? Because Tom Thibodeau talked a lot about practice. Right? What guys do in practice, that's going to dictate, they play well in practice, so it's going to dictate them playing on the floor. Obi Toppin, he wasn't producing for a while, but Tom Thibodeau said he's doing work in practice. Maybe Frank Ntilikina wasn't doing the work in practice. I don't know, Andy. I'm gonna come to Cornerstone, but because Frank was one of Cornerstone's cornerstone at the beginning of the season, right?
That's a lie. That's a lie.
It's not a lie. It's the truth. Don't lie. Don't lie on the show.
It's a fib.
Don't lie on the show.
Because I said that R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson were our cornerstones. When we're all going back and forth about trading Mitch,
you threw Frank in there too. You threw Frank in there.
Get the receipts. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I know I never said Frank was a cornerstone. I did not throw.
You had Frank in there.
You gotta find the tape, Sim.
And then you had my guy.
Find a videotape. Find a videotape.
You had Frank in there, and then you had my guy. You had the dude from Charlotte with the funny jump shot. I can't think of his name right now.
See, I know
as
you're
your defensive cornerstone.
As your defensive
cornerstone.
I know you're bugging now. And you see how you do me, man? You see how he manipulates everything? You see how he manipulates?
Him and Frank were your two defensive cornerstones.
My cornerstones was R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson, and I stand by that.
All right. I'm sure you do stand by those two, but you might as well go ahead and stand by Frank too, because you said he was a cornerstone. But anyway, Andy, why didn't he get it? What was it that Tom didn't see from him, do you think?
Listen, Sim, I didn't want to go about, why didn't he play and stuff like that. I just want to see the faces of Knicks fans when the French national team plays him at point guard and he throws lobs to Rudy Gobert.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see those kissers when people be like, he can do that for real? Why didn't he do it in the NBA? He didn't get the chance to do it.
Yep.
That's as simple as that for me. Listen, I understand that he didn't get a chance for a reason, but was the reason on his side in the court always?
Hey, can I speak on that?
Yeah, go ahead. Jump in there, Tone.
Well, I think he was a victim of circumstance. And here's why. I think had he not got injured early in the year where he was already playing well, he was playing well when he got hurt. And remember, I had that take of every time he plays well, some injury pops up. And then he has to rebuild himself. This particular year, he didn't necessarily have to rebuild himself, but the team was playing well. So it's hard to reinsert him where his performance early was well, but it wasn't where we were looking for him to come back. We needed him to come back. We sustained that winning without him. So he had to wait for his opportunity now. And then even with the playoffs, I think Tibbs got caught up more in the I don't think he wanted to make too drastic moves in one series. You know what I mean? He already made the one with benching Payton completely. I don't think he wanted to do it twice. Even though I would have thought it might have been smarter to insert Frank into that starting lineup.
Exactly.
Than Rose, given what we lost coming off the bench and given the comparisons in Elfrid and Frank's game in the sense that they're defensive players first. Frank maybe definitely being a better shooter. I think that might have lessened the chemistry, the chemistry issues from bringing Rose into the starting lineup. But I mean that's my take on that. I think he was just a victim of circumstance more than anything else. Tibbs definitely likes what he sees from Frank. He sang his praises throughout the year too, including in practice. He continued to say Frank is showing things in practice. I think it was just more of a circumstance of, during the season, maybe he didn't want to get rid of Payton that early, because Payton's only role would be starting on this team. He doesn't fit well with the bench production or with the bench players. So it was like, if you get rid of Payton from that starting role, as we saw in the playoffs, he has no role on the team.
Payton's best role is playing for the Shanghai Spring Rolls, man.
Yeah, I mean, but see, I'm just a big believer that if a player is better than another player, you play him.
Right.
I just believe that.
I don't know if he was necessarily better. I think it was a very small margin of difference in the two, and then Tibbs is going to go with the vet in that instant. I don't know if Frank was definitely performing him. He gave you a couple things that obviously Elfrid didn't. Elfrid is more seasoned, so he was going to do things just off of repetition, off of experience that Frank is still learning to get to. You know what I mean? But I think it was still a balance. If you put in money on the two, I would think Frank is better because he has the longer future, the more time to grow. But if you're just looking at the production of two players at one time, it's kind of even. You know what I mean? Or maybe Elfrid gets the edge. And we weren't in a position to be looking for the future and potential. We would look. We try to win now. You know what I mean? So I think that's why Elfrid got. He is experienced trumping. But if we talking keeping him dumping with Frank, I'd say keep him. I think even if he's not a point guard, he has a position in this league. I don't think the shooting is a fluke. I think the shooting is gonna be there. I think you could tell he worked on it. Like you said, the form looked good, and it definitely changed over time because even with the long arms, it looked good. Like that it was something with his long arms early in his career. It looked a little funny, and this year, very fluent. It was all one motion.
Yep.
So
it looked tight.
I think he got that down pat right now. I still say keep him for his upside. Keep him for his upside.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
he's restricted, right?
Yeah, he's restricted.
But
Yeah.
at this point, the market-
well, not necessarily. It all depends. Not necessarily. So right now, the Knicks, if they want to keep him restricted, then they've got to give him a qualifying offer. That qualifying offer is $8.3 million. If the Knicks extend that qualifying offer to Frank Ntilikina, he's going to take it.
He's going to take it off jump.
Right.
So they're in a position then, basically, because I think 8 might be a little bit high for him.
Right. I think it might be a little bit high.
Otherwise, I would have said let the market dictate. But that's the max of like they could give him. They can't give him a lower qualifying.
No, they've got to give him a qualifying offer of $8.3 million, and then if he takes it, he'll play for one more year under $8.3 million, and then he can be an unrestricted free agent. So all right. If he declines it, then
he's a free agent.
He'll be a restricted free agent, and the Knicks have the ability to match any offer. If the Knicks do not offer him a qualifying offer, if they do not extend a qualifying offer, then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. I think that they probably will not extend him a qualifying offer. They want to keep as much money available as possible, probably, so that they can make whatever moves that they're going to make, and then, see where it lands after they've made moves during free agency. Let him become an unrestricted free agent, and then
I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say. At this point, he's probably going to be unrestricted, and if we work out a deal within our time and money framework, we do, and if we don't, we don't. You know what I mean? But because he's 100%. He's not going to not take that $8 million.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't think he's guaranteed that anywhere elsewhere, even being one year. So yeah, that's a tough position.
Yeah.
I would have preferred to let the market dictate his value and then decide, but he's not going to decline that 8.
Right.
On a side question, is there anybody else that is restricted or in that position with Frank?
No, I think he's the only one. I think he's the only one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the only one this season. He's the only one this season.
Next season is the same thing for Kevin Knox.
Right. Same thing for Kevin Knox next year.
But Sim, just to add to the thing, imagine if the Knicks were thinking about making a trade on the draft night, and they would be needing that salary cap, just to fill in for a bigger contract, they would want Frank to pick up the option. They would tell him, listen, you pick up the option, go get the money, and we're going to trade you this or that there, right? And he would be filling out with that $8.3 million for the salary purposes of the trade, right? So if we see that getting picked up before the draft, that might mean he's getting moved, because I don't think they value him that high, unless they know that, for example, Reggie Bullock says, like, listen, I want $15 million, and they're gonna tell Reggie Bullock, like, listen, we got Frank for half of that.
With Elfrid Payton, man.
Yeah. And someone asked a question in the chat. James Earl. I'm just gonna say James Earl. He said, he said, what is the deadline for the offer? I'm not exactly sure when the deadline for the offer. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's going to have to be before free agency ends. So free agency begins in August.
Probably like mid-July, I probably imagine.
So I'm not exactly sure when the deadline is for them to extend an offer to Frank Ntilikina.
Because this is a funny season, so.
Yeah, funny season.
Yeah, they usually can do it like up until like you talked about some the free agency, because then that's when they usually a player be like, hey, you know, qualifying offer, or you know. But I think that the thing you just discussed, I think they'll probably try to renounce everybody, and then because they're gonna want that money, they're gonna want as much money as possible.
Right. I think we would hear something about it, whether or not they're going to extend it or renounce it before free agency, just before free agency begins. Because it wouldn't be fair to Frank Ntilikina, you know, to keep him on the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, he can't get out and go into free agency and try to find a deal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it may be required that they either renounce or extend an offer before free agency begins. They could have done it the entire season, actually. They could have done it anytime throughout the season. They could have extended the offer or whatever it is, and then Frank would have been able to make a decision. Clearly, they said, you know, that's not going to happen. So I'm assuming it would be sometime in July. We'd probably hear, you know, if they're going to extend an offer or they're going to renounce them. I'm assuming that they're going to renounce it. Kev, I'm going to come to you, man, since this is one of your cornerstones. Talk to me about Frank. What are we doing? We keeping him or dumping him?
Well, me personally, I want to keep him. I want to keep him, but I want everyone to be I want to make it perfectly clear to everyone that the only way I think the organization will keep him is if many of these players, like your Burks, your Noels, all these guys are on 1-year deals. If they're gone, and I know they're going to upgrade the position, and I know we're going, you know, we're trying to go big game hunting. Like let's say we get a Dame Lillard or whatever, a lot of our roster will be decimated. So you're going to have to, you know, keep him on. But here's the thing I will say. I call Leon Rose, I call Worldwide West, and I call Scott Perry the three wise men. What I'm doing, I'm having the three wise men sit with Tibbs and asking him, does Frank Ntilikina have a place in your rotation? If he says yes, I offer him a contract for 3 years of maybe like $3 million per year. So that's $9 million. All right. If he does not, if Tibbs says no, he has no place on our roster. See, here's the thing. Tibbs will say one thing, but then do something else, because he said Frank could be a key part to to our team, but then doesn't play him. So what are you saying?
He said
what are you saying?
Though, right?
No, this is later on. This is later on. You're absolutely right, Kareem. He said situational.
Okay, and I'm gonna say this to you, Kev. I'm gonna say this to you, Kev. I'm gonna say this to you. Right?
That's the same thing about Dennis Smith.
Yeah, and look, but look, Kev, if you ask Tibbs right now, he'll say, yeah, Frank Ntilikina played a key part in our season. He had some games where he came in, made some big defensive plays, and helped us win games.
So bottom line, it's hot air. It's hot air.
No, it's not. It's not hot air.
Hot towels, some Gatorade
right?
too.
He'll tell you he came in. He challenged guys defensively in practice and did things like that, which you can't overlook. I'm sorry. You know, people will laugh at that, but you can't overlook it. I bring in college level players to scrimmage against my girls. Why? Because I need them scrimmaging against competition, going against defense, playing against players who are better than them. I'm not saying Frank is better than players who were playing. Possibly he was. Who knows?
Right.
But you need to have guys that can especially challenge you defensively on the practice court. So would he say Frank Ntilikina played a key role? Yes, he would. May not have always been on the NBA court, but he did some things on the court too in some of his games.
Okay. So again, I'll go back to my original thing. I'm sitting down, the three wise men sitting down with Tibbs and asking, does Frank have a role in your rotation? If he says yes, and I threw out those numbers out there, I'd rather let management and Brock Eiler work out those numbers of what kind of contract you're going to give him. If he says no, if Tibbs says no, then I'm telling Frank to what you just said. He's not restricted, right? Did you say he's not restricted?
Oh, it all depends on what the Knicks decide to do. If they renounce his contract, then he's an unrestricted free agent. If they extend the qualifying offer, then it's up to Frank Ntilikina to accept it or decline it.
Yeah, I would. But you said they're more inclined to do the second part.
Renounce it.
I think we all agree that.
Okay, then I would say 1 second, Tone. I would say renounce the contract, and I wish you well.
But even if Tom Thibodeau says, yeah, I can use Frank, they're still going to renounce his contract because they're not going to pay him $8.3 million.
But here's the thing, and it's not fair to him to be on a team and he not getting any run. It's not fair. I'm not saying that he has to be a point guard or anything. I'm not saying that at all.
No,
but what I am saying is that he should be able to play.
I get that, but Kev, hear what I'm saying though. You said you're going to ask Tibbs, are you going to play him or not? And if Tibbs says yes, then you're going to sign him. If he says no, then you let him go. What I'm saying to you is, even if Tibbs says yes, they are going to renounce that $8.3 million qualifying offer. They're going to renounce it and allow him to be an unrestricted free agent, which means he could go out there and find a better deal, somebody else, and go someplace else and go before the Knicks even get a chance.
Then the ball is at Frank's court if he wants to stay in New York or go and get that money, get the best, And somebody brought this up yesterday. He's made quite a bit of money, in his 4 years being here. He made. He's made quite a bit.
And Kev, and the piggyback of what you just said about not piggyback, but let's be honest, man. Even if he goes somewhere else, he might not play there either.
I disagree because I believe my belief is wherever he goes. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to,
it would have to be the perfect situation. He would have to go to exactly. That's what I mean.
It had to be a perfect situation.
Places where he won't play than there are places where he will play. Yes.
I'll give you two teams. I think he would play in Toronto.
San Antonio, right?
In San Antonio.
I already knew those two. I knew those two names were coming up. That's the two names. That's the two names we knew were coming up.
Yo, and Toronto always got those long dudes, man, that just get on your nerves.
And all them. Yeah, so y'all come.
What's Owanobi? What's his name? That dude. Yeah. Oh my God, man.
Oh, yeah.
He might even get play in Orlando.
Right.
You would.
I was gonna say Detroit. I was gonna say Detroit.
Detroit too,
because I think Detroit wanted him.
Listen. I mean, maybe they did want him other than Dennis Smith Jr., but after they got Dennis Smith Jr. and he flamed out, did nothing, they're like, I don't want none of them Knicks guards. I don't want any of those guards from the Knicks.
Yeah, but Frank over there. But Frank ain't DSJ. Frank's 3-point shot is way better than Dennis Smith's 3-point shot. So.
And I think they wanted Frank initially.
Yeah, so and they got Killian Hayes. And they got Killian Hayes. So, that could be someone to help support Killian Hayes.
Hilarious. He say, hey, it's the Knicks. You want it now? We don't want nobody else. Right. You got us once, though. You can't get us again. Nah, we good.
But Kareem, like you said, it's got to be the most ideal situation.
Yeah, it got to be a situation for him.
That happens.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the Knicks would help him with, like, Frank hasn't been a head case. Frank, Frank has been really professional. I give him.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it there. Let's put it out there. He gets drafted by a president who gets fired 2 days later. So already
There's been a
he's
lot.
behind
He's
the
been
eight
through
ball.
so many coaches and everything.
So many
man.
coaches and the regimes and everything. This is his third regime. So it's been like Ron says, it's been a lot of malpractice. Go ahead.
But real quick, I just want to ask everybody. I don't want to take over the show, Sim, but I just want like a quick question because I thought about this with Frank. I think we are going to keep him. Like we'll down him and then sign him for a lower deal because I feel like the Knicks organization thinks, hey, when we finally hit that playoff mark. Frank is a type of player. He's a great piece for a contending team. And I think the Knicks want to keep him for that when we get to a certain level, and we need that defender, that 3-and-D dude, and because, Frank is great at also defending the pick and roll as well. One of the best at doing it.
Best at doing it. Yep.
Yeah. So, I think we want to keep him to play that role moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so as well. Nate, let me get your thoughts on Frank Ntilikina, whether you're going to keep him or dump him. You gotta unmute yourself before you can say anything, or people not going to be able to hear you.
Oh, yeah. So Frank's my dude. Like that, I love that guy, man. He's a hell of a player, and he's a hell of a competitor. And there's more to him that a lot of people don't know about. I really do. But he's a shy guy, and he's not a very loud person. He's probably the most polarizing player on this team. There's no doubt about it, because a lot of people want to keep him. A lot of people want to dump him. A lot of people want him to go and do his own thing. I think it's time. I think it's time to let him go. You guys talk about why he hasn't been able to get time on this team. Well, I have said for the longest time that this guy was drafted by Phil Jackson. Mm-hmm. And every regime that's been after him did not want him. This was not their pick. He's kind of like, you ever watch the movie Office Space? He's like Milton. Like he's been fired, but he's still there. That's Frank.
I like that.
Frank is just there. He's just there. He's a floating head, unfortunately. I mean, it sucks because
I disagree.
A lot of teams want.
Well, if that was the case, then he would play more because
he would have been traded. If you were right, he would have been traded because other teams has that.
Bro, nobody's going to trade for the guy. They're waiting for him to get released.
What are you talking about? Teams inquired about trading for him. We were just talking about Detroit, who wanted him instead of Dennis Smith Jr.
I guess. I mean, maybe that's the only team that wanted him. But the reality is, a lot of these people know that he's going to get released. The Knicks aren't going to keep him, so they're just waiting to get him released. Now, when he gets released, it's going to be a big market for him because he's a 3-and-D player. So, and he's still young. Okay. And if you can tap into the potential that the Knicks have not been able to do, then you're going to get a special player.
The one thing I want to say, and I do agree that Frank Ntilikina, he's been through different regimes. Obviously, there's nothing to agree about. That's just the facts. He's been through different regimes and all that kind of stuff. And maybe he hasn't gotten the chance that everyone wants him to get. But this season is the first season that he didn't average over 20 minutes a game. Yeah. So when we keep saying all these teams didn't want to play him, that's not really true. First season, he averaged 21.9 minutes. 2018-19, he averaged 21 minutes. 2019-20, he averaged 21 minutes. Now, the team wasn't good, but they were playing Frank Ntilikina. This is the first season he's averaged less than 20 minutes a game.
And you could argue it's his best season.
Yeah, with percentages. Yeah, with
percentages.
As far as shooting percentages.
He did more with less.
But, I mean, just the eye test. He didn't look like he looked comfortable in whatever role.
His shot looked good now, man.
This is the first time that he didn't come out saying, hey, I'm a point guard. I'm a point guard.
Right.
Like, put me in the game and let me do what I could do. He's evolving as a player as well. Right. I think not looking at numbers, but just looking at him on the floor, I think he looked the best this year.
So Tony, why do so many people, because I see in the chat, why do so many people hate him? They literally hate him.
I think part of
literally gave
I don't know.
Knicks, we should have taken Mitchell over him.
Yeah.
That's why people think, and that's crazy.
Well, we
That's
weren't the only
crazy
team.
thinking.
Yeah, we weren't the only team that's stepped over him.
Right, but it doesn't matter if we were the only team. It's the fact that we had the chance to draft Donovan Mitchell and we got Frank Ntilikina, and we were choosing between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were.
The Knicks were choosing between: do we take Frank? Do we take Donovan Mitchell?
No,
That was DSJ. That was DSJ.
It was not DSJ. No. It wasn't DSJ. It was Frank Ntilikina and Donovan Mitchell. They had Donovan Mitchell in for a workout. They were really, really impressed by Donovan Mitchell.
I'm gonna be.
They decided to go with Frank. Phil decided to go with Frank.
I did not know that.
Sam, real quick, I'm starting a Let's Jack Up Steve Mills fund. If anybody wanted to put in the pot.
Oh no. That was Phil.
That was Phil.
That was
It was Phil. Steve Mills actually wanted Donovan Mitchell.
With the GM. Okay, let's get both for them. I'm gonna add him to the pot.
This was a Phil Jackson pick, man.
Yeah.
He wanted
because the triangle. He's playing a triangle in France. Correct? If I'm not
And Phil Jackson. Sabotage.
Yeah. Steve Mills.
Was it really between those two?
I'm serious. Wow. Steve Mills. You can go back and look in the post.
Okay.
When they had Donovan Mitchell in,
he was on that.
When they had Donovan Mitchell in for a workout, and they were saying this guy could end up being the pick for the Knicks. The Knicks really liked this guy, and it was Steve Mills who liked him.
And it's funny because a lot of the Knicks fans didn't even know who he was. Y'all
didn't know who he was.
Junior.
Frank,
who's Donovan?
I didn't know who Kristaps Porzingis was.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's funny how upset everybody gets.
Exactly.
But he wasn't on a lot of fans' radars either.
Right.
He
wasn't.
Mitchell was a high riser in that draft. I remember they were talking a lot about Mitchell.
I'm depressed now, Sim. I got.
Yeah, I really did not know that, Sim. That makes me sick, bro.
No, they were.
Oh my god.
Now they had kind of ruled out DSJ. They kind of ruled him out. You know, Phil Jackson had him in. Phil Jackson had him in. He didn't eat whatever octopus or whatever it was. And then, of course, injuries. They kind of ruled that out. They had Donovan Mitchell come in, and they were going between. They were look. It was between Frank Ntilikina and Donovan Mitchell. Phil Jackson wanted to go with Frank Ntilikina. And there it was.
Ooh, man.
There it was.
Man, oh, man.
So, oh, Lord.
But, you know, so that's part of the reason why so many fans dislike Frank Ntilikina, because he was an 8th pick, could have had Donovan Mitchell, right? And back then, it was like we could have had Donovan Mitchell or DSJ, because remember, DSJ went to Dallas and he was averaging 15, 16 points a game, right? So that's one of the reasons why so many fans dislike Frank Ntilikina. But look, I say keep him. I think we should keep him. Obviously not at $8.3 million a year, right? Because I don't think he's worth that amount of money. But I do believe in the future he could be worth that amount of money, but he's not worth that right now. I do think he can play a role on his team. I think he can come in and be a defender. He can knock down the corner three. He's going to continue to get better. You know, he's already a guy who has a good basketball IQ, and I think he fits in the style that Tom Thibodeau wants to play basketball.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, Sim, just real quick.
I'll give him like $1 million in an unlimited Metro card every month.
Just real quick. Last year, the year that we didn't finish, you did start to see a different type of Frank. I mean, he was driving to the basket. He was, starting to hit the those threes and everything. He was starting to do a little pull up at the coming across the basket, the mid range and everything.
He was hitting those too.
Yeah, and he was hitting them. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit, and then that was the end. End of that. So I think if that would have finished, if that year would have finished, no matter where we were going to pick or whatever, I think that would have given probably Tibbs a little bit more to go on than what what we had pretty much. So, but I'll tell you this much: come the Olympics, because he's playing for France. If he starts giving all these, alley-oops to Gobert and, working with Fournier and all these other guys and starts cooking, the opposing point guards, I think Frank. I
I
think.
was about to say they're gonna cook us. I'm about to stop it.
Yeah. I mean, wait. Say again, Kareem.
I thought you was about to say they're gonna start cooking us. I'm like, nah.
Oh no. Well, remember when he was with France and he had cooked Kimber Walker and
that was the FIBA, right?
Yeah, that was a FIBA. Everything. Yeah. So we're gonna see. And I'll tell you this also. When they do see, I don't think Tibbs is gonna be like Fizdale and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna steal a few plays from France." Do you remember that? You remember that, Kareem? You remember that?
Yeah, Fizdale, he was a clown.
Hey, Sim, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you're keeping Frank Ntilikina, who are you replacing out of the rotation?
Well, I'm expecting that either Alec Burks or Reggie Bullock's not coming back.
Definitely.
Right.
Yep. And if we are going to make a move, if we do end up making a move for a high-profile player, it's going to cost some money. You're going to need low-cost options who can play defense and knock down the three.
Yeah.
And I think Frank
I'm cool with
Ntilikina,
both replacing both with them.
yeah, I think Frank Ntilikina fits that bill perfectly.
I agree with you.
So,
Hey, Sim, you know how I want to get Sim, man. And I know y'all might laugh at me, man. I really want to get. No, I'm telling. I want to get a finally for us to get a big that can shoot. I want us to take a look at Kelly Olynyk, man.
he could be an option.
I want a big that can shoot. I'm tired of this old throwback. I get it. It's cool. You want, but we need to stretch the floor more, man.
Yeah,
we've never had that really.
Yo, we had Luke Cornett.
That can shoot.
We had Luke Cornett.
He's buying Cornets right now, whatever that is.
Hey, Cornett can shoot, bro. Cornett can shoot.
Who are you shooting for?
Celtics.
He's shooting a shot in the club at females. That's it.
That is funny. Oh,
Yeah.
that is
Well,
funny.
anyway,
He's
guys,
on the Bulls, right?
That is funny.
Yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure. I got to get to practice.
We were just getting good, man.
What else were we gonna talk about? Everybody, it sounds like sounds like everybody except for Nate wants to keep Frank. Everybody wants to dump
Andy, but
Elfrid.
I think for the most part, we all
Travis
agree
is
that
publicist too, and Andy is his agent.
We all agree we don't want to give Frank $8 million. So ultimately, it becomes dump him, and you know if we get him back reasonably, we get him back reasonably.
I think Frank's going back to Europe, man.
And that's
I think he's going back to Europe.
No,
I don't think so. Not at all. Not at all.
No.
I think Frank is going to find a spot in the NBA. If it's not with the Knicks,
You don't think
he'll be
so?
on it. No, he will be on a team in the NBA.
Yeah, he will be.
I feel like he's more at home when he plays for his national team.
Why? He averaged 5 points there too.
But he looks more comfortable. He looks like he's
at home.
enjoying himself when he's playing for the French national team. You don't look comfortable.
He looks comfortable. I think he does. I think, yeah,
man, that's where he's from. He
I don't think so.
He plays with his teammates.
Yeah, Frank's not.
That's obvious. You
know how we gonna keep Frank here?
Hey, man.
Throwing some IG models.
They'll throw money at him. Just you watch. You heard it here.
Get like $10 million out there.
Frank will be in the NBA. I'm pretty sure of that. Frank will be in the NBA someplace. I have no doubt about that. It may not be with the Knicks, but he'll be in the NBA. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta head up out of here. Please, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel right now. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I go live or drop a video, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I'm out of here. I got to get to basketball practice. Be on the lookout for that information for the draft party on July 29th in Atlantic City, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you pay attention to those details. Coming very soon. There's going to be a registration link coming within the next day or two. So be ready for that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out of here. Keep them or dump them. We'll have a new segment next week of Keep them or dump them. So pay attention to the series. We out.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sob like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.